Hello friends, welcome back. In this tutorial we will study about Scanf function. This Scanf function is a library function. If a program is using a Scanf function, then that program must include the header file stdio.h to use this library function Scanf. Now what is the use of this Scanf function? Now see, suppose in a program I have declared a variable, integer variable a. Now I have not initialized any value to this integer variable a. What I want that user enter the value for this variable through input device, that is keyboard. So for that purpose we can use scanf function. So what this scanf function does, this scanf function takes input from the user through input device, and whatever the value it gets from the user through input device, that value it stores in the variable. Right, now see, this is the general form of scanf function. So here scanf, and then in parenthesis control string, comma, then arguments 1, 2, 3, so on up to argument n. Now what happens, what are these arguments? These arguments are the addresses of the variables in which I want to store the value which is entered by the user through keyboard, right? And what is this control string? This control string, it consists of individual character groups, and corresponding to each argument there is a character group in control string depending on the type of argument, right? Now in simplest form, the character group which corresponds to these arguments, it is a %sign followed by a conversion character. If a conversion character is C, then it means that the data item is a single character, right? If the conversion character is D, then it means that the data item is a decimal integer. If the conversion character is F, then it means that data item is a floating point value. There are other conversion characters also, but here I have discussed only 3 because they are very common. Now let us come to the problem. See, so here I have declared an integer variable a. Now what I want, that user enter the value of this variable a through the input device, that is keyboard, and whatever the value entered by the user, whatever the integer value entered by the user through keyboard, that value must be stored in this variable a. So for that purpose here I have used this scanf function. So here is the argument of this scanf function, that is %a. So what is this %a? What is the value of this expression? The value of this expression is the memory address of this variable a. Now this in double quotes, what is it? It is a control string. Now this control string contains a character group corresponding to this argument, that is %a, right? So here you can see that this character group, it consists of a %sign followed by a conversion character D, right? Here the conversion character is D. Why? Because here the data item is a decimal integer, right? We want that the data item is it will be stored as a decimal integer, right? Because here you can see that this variable a, right, it is a integer type variable. It can store only integer values. So we want that decimal integer values are stored in this variable a. So here we have taken the conversion character D. Now see another example. There is a floating type variable C, and what I want that user enter the value for this variable C through keyboard, and whatever the value he enters, that value must be stored in this variable C. So for that I have used this scanf function. So in this case the argument will be the memory address of this variable C. right? And here you can see this expression ampersand c. What is this ampersand c? This ampersand c is an expression, right? And the value of this expression is the memory address of variable c. And here you can see the control string in double quotes, and in this control string you can see this character group which corresponds to this argument. This character groups contains percent sign and conversion character f. Here we have taken conversion character f, right? Because the value which is to be stored in this variable c, that should be a floating point value. That should be a floating point value, right? So what will be the conversion character? It depends on the type of value which is to be stored in the variable whose address is there, whose address is given here as an argument, right? Now suppose, now see this example, now see this statement. Here I have declared an integer type variable a. Here I have declared a floating point type variable c. Now see this statement, right? Here you can see this scanf function. The argument of this scanf functions are the address of variable a and address of variable c. And here you can see the control string. Now in a control string there are two character groups. So this character group %d, right? First character group corresponds to the first argument and second character group corresponds to the second argument. So what happens when the user enters a value, right? So he should first enter a decimal integer, right, through the keyboard. So when he types the first decimal integer value, that decimal integer value will be stored in variable a. After that he will have to enter this floating point value. That floating point value will be stored in the variable c, right? This is how this scanf function works. So we will study about these functions, printf function and scanf function, more when we do more programming. In another tutorials we will study about them in detail, right? So till now that much is enough for you to make simple programs in C.